So the story begins. Music. 1858. One bounties started killing Jymans. Well, here A shows the gun to him and asks him about him, on which the king calms Ace down and says that I am looking for two brothers who trade slaves, whom everyone knows as Speck Brothers, on which Dickie says that we are the Speck Brothers and what do you have to do with us, on which the king tells him that I want to buy one slave from the slaves who are with you right now. Then the king asks all those slaves that who among you used to live in Karuk plantation, on which a slave named Django tells that I used to live there earlier. On hearing this the king comes to Django and asks him that do you know about the Brittle brothers, on which Django replies yes. Then the king asks him the names of the Brittle brothers, on which Django tells that the name of the eldest brother is John, the name of the second one is Ellis and the name of the youngest brother is Roger. Here the king asks Django that can you identify these three brothers by looking at them. Meanwhile Ace tells the king that we cannot talk to our slave like this. Then the king tells him that I am a buyer and I want to buy a slave from you, but Ace refuses to sell his slave to him and points a gun at him and threatens him to leave from here, due to which the king gets angry at him and he takes out his gun and shoots Ace in the head, due to which he dies on the spot. Also, the king shoots Dickie's horse and kills it, due to which Dickie falls on the ground and his dead horse comes over his body and presses him. After this the king comes to Django and talks to him about the Brittle brothers. Then Django says that I will recognize them at the first sight. Hearing this the king thinks of keeping Django with him. That is why he opens the shackles of his feet and asks Dickie his price, but Dickie is screaming due to pain. After which Django takes Ace's clothes and sits on his horse, while the king comes to Dickie and gives him the price of Django and a horse. Apart from this, before leaving from there, he tells the rest of the slaves that if you want to live a grandmother's life today, then you should kill Dickie and run away from here. Hearing this, the slaves kill Dickie and free themselves. The next day we see Django and King going to a village. All the people of this village are surprised to see Django riding a horse because black people were not allowed to sit on a horse, due to which everyone is staring at Django. Well, here King and Django go to a bar where the bar owner gets very scared after seeing Django and runs away from the bar. Actually, Django was standing on equal terms with the king, and in today's time, it was a big deal for black people to stand on equal terms with white people. Here in the bar, King makes a drink for himself and Django, after which he tells Django that he kills a bounty hunter Jyman, on whom the government has put a reward. He also tells that after the death of the criminal, he has to deliver his dead body to the officers so that later he can take the reward money from them. Well, now King he tells Django that I don't like to make anyone a slave, but I need your help. That's why I have chosen you. Here King makes a deal with Django that if you help me in killing Brittle brothers, I will give you $75 and set you free forever. Meanwhile, the bar owner brings a police officer there. Then the officer asks King and Django to come out of the bar and threatens to kill them, due to which King gets angry at him and he kills that officer. Seeing this, all the people of the village get scared and go to call their senior officer. After this, the senior officer of the village comes there and surrounds the bar from all sides and asks King to come out with his partner. Then King tells him that I am a man working with the government, so you have to listen to me completely before shooting at me, for which the officer agrees. Then King comes out and tells them that the man I have killed was actually a criminal and he was living here hiding his identity because that man was dead 2 months ago. Since he was recruited in the police, the senior officer starts believing King. Then King shows him a warrant in which it was written about the dead officer, and the government had also placed a reward of $200 on killing him. Seeing this warrant, the senior officer believes King. Then King asks for $200 from the officer, due to which the officer has to give him $200. After this, King and Django leave from there. When they stop to rest, King comes to know that Django is married and his wife Broomhilda has been sold to a rich man by the Brittle brothers. Here Django tells King that after finishing your work, I will find my wife, and after buying my wife's freedom from that rich man, I will take her away with me somewhere. After this, Django tells that Broomhilda was raised by a German woman, so she knows how to speak a little German language. Hearing this, King is very happy because he was also a German. Now both of them move forward to search for the Brittle brothers. After some time, they stop in a village and rest, where the king and Django make a plan to reach the Brittle brothers. The king gives Django new clothes and tells him that from now on you will have to act as my servant so that no one suspects you. After this, Django wears clothes of his choice and then both of them go to meet a businessman named Big Daddy, where Big Daddy gets angry after seeing a black man with the king and asks him to leave his area. Then the king makes a deal with Big Daddy that he has come to buy his slave, in return for which he will give him a good price. Hearing this, Big Daddy becomes happy and welcomes the king well. He also asks his slave Bettina to take good care of Django. When Bettina is taking Django around the place, then Django asks her about the Brittle brothers, but Bettina did not know such brothers. That is why Django tells her that they are three brothers who live hiding their identity. Then Bettina tells that a black man has been living with them for 1 year. First three brothers came who used to live here, after which Bettina points towards a man. When Django sees that man, he recognizes him. It was none other than Ellis Brittle. Apart from this, Bettina tells that the remaining two brothers are punishing the slaves in the horse stable. After this, Django immediately goes towards the stable where John and Roger were punishing a slave girl. Seeing this, Django shoots John and kills him, after which he beats Roger with a whip and shoots him dead too. Here we come to know that Django and his wife Broomhilda tried to escape from Karok Plantation, so the Brittle brothers beat him and his wife very much and put a mark of fugitive on the faces of both of them, after which both of them were sold to different places. Well, after a while the king comes there, then Django tells him that I have killed John and Roger and Ellis is monitoring the slaves in the field. Then the king looks towards the field where Ellis is sitting on a horse. The king without any hesitation kills Ellis, but he takes aim at him and shoots him dead. Then Big Daddy comes there with his men and points his gun at King and Django. Then King explains to him that we had not come to harm anyone else but only to kill the Brittle brothers. Here King shows Big Daddy a warrant against the Brittle brothers, due to which Big Daddy has to release them, but he was still angry with both of them because they had killed his special men. Now King and Django leave from there by keeping the bodies of the Brittle brothers in their buggy. When it is night, both of them stop at a place to rest. Meanwhile, we see Big Daddy, who along with his companions makes a plan to kill King and Django, after which they take the opportunity and surround King's buggy, but King was already not liking Big Daddy's intentions. That is why he and Django had already moved away from their buggy. Well, as soon as Big Daddy's people reach the buggy, the hidden King shoots at the gunpowder kept in his buggy, due to which a big bullet is fired. There is an explosion and many of Big Daddy's men are killed. After this, the king gives his sniper to Django and asks him to kill Big Daddy, due to which Django kills him by shooting him in one go. After this, the king and Django stop at a place and have dinner. During this, Django talks to the king about his wife. Then the king tells him the story of a German princess named Broomhilda. The king tells that the princess was imprisoned on a mountain by her father. Then a prince came and freed her from captivity. After listening to this story, Django decides that he will also free his wife in any way, but the king said that he should be a little more patient and he should also take training as a bounty hunter so that he can earn money and buy his wife from a rich man. Here the king offers Django that I will teach you bounties and you will have to work with me as my partner, in return for which I will also give you money. Apart from this, he promises Django that he himself will help him in finding Broomhilda. Now the next day, Django and King goes to a village where King gives Django his first mission, in which Django has to kill a farmer named Smitty, but Django did not have the courage to kill him because Smitty had his son with him. So King shows him Smitty's warrant, in which it was written that Smitty and his gang have killed many innocent people and stolen their belongings. So the government will give bounties for killing Smitty and his entire gang. After this, Django aims his sniper at Smitty and kills him. Now King and Django come to a snowy place where he practices shooting using a snowman and becomes a good target. Along with this, He along with King kills all the gang members of Smitty. After this, King and Django go to the nearby police station where they collect the dead bodies of Smitty and his gang members and take their reward money from the officer. After some time they go to a place named Mississippi where they see many slaves on the road who are being treated very badly. Here they come to know from a record that the name of Broomhilda's new owner is Galvin J. Candy, who is the owner of Mississippi's largest plantation. Here King makes a plan to free Broomhilda from Calvin and says that I will go to Calvin to buy his most special fighter and you will come with me as my most special man. Actually Calvin prepares his slaves for fight and gets big fights done by investing money on them. Now Django and King meet Calvin's lawyer who takes them to Calvin's club, where Calvin is getting his fighter to fight with another fighter. After this King talks to Calvin and tells him that he wants to buy his best fighter for $1,000. Hearing such an offer of money, Calvin becomes happy and invites them to come to his Candyland. The next day King and Django leave for Candyland with Calvin, where on the way Calvin's people make fun of Django for being black, which angers Django and he kills a white man by horse. Then Calvin tells his men not to say bad things to Django. After walking some distance, Django pretends that he also hates the people, so he starts saying bad things to Calvin's slaves. Then the king feels that his plan will be ruined because of Django, so he talks to Django and explains to him that you have to control yourself, otherwise Calvin will come to know about our reality. After this, everyone moves forward where Calvin's people come on the way who had brought dangerous dogs with them. Actually, one of Calvin's fighters was trying to run away, so Calvin's people left their dogs behind him. This fighter had climbed a tree to save his life from those dogs. Then Calvin talks to that fighter and asks him to come down. When that fighter comes down, Calvin asks him the reason for running away, on which the fighter says that I cannot fight anymore. Calvin gets angry at this and he threatens to kill him. Seeing this, the king feels pity for the fighter, so he asks to buy him, on which Django stops him and says that he is of no use to us, so we should not buy him. Then Van comes to Django and asks him whether he will not regret the death of this black man, on which Django says that he is your slave, you can do whatever you want with him. Hearing this, Calvin asks to release dogs on the fighter, due to which the dogs attack the fighter and kill him. After some time, they all reach Candyland where Calvin's most special slave Stephen welcomes them, but when he sees Django on a horse, he gets very angry and he asks Calvin that how can he sit on a horse in front of you. Actually, Stephen used to hate black people even after being black and used to trouble them a lot. Well, here Calvin tells him that Django is a free man and he is a special man of our guest king, that is why you have to treat him well. After this, Calvin meets his sister Lara who used to manage this place. Then the king tells Calvin that he had said that you have a slave named LD who knows to speak German. Then Calvin remembers that he had bought a slave named LD who knows a little German. Here the king tells Calvin that I want to meet that girl before making a deal for the fighter. Then Stephen tells that LD had tried to run away from here, so to punish him, he has been locked inside a tank kept in the sun. Hearing this, Calvin asks to get him out as soon as possible. When they take LD out, Django comes to know that LD is none other than Broomhilda. Actually her name was changed when she came to Candyland. Well, Django gets very sad to see this condition of Broomhilda and starts taking out his gun. Then he thinks that if he has to buy his wife, then he will have to keep himself calm, so he controls his anger. Now at night, Lara prepares Broomhilda and takes her to the king's room where the king talks to Broomhilda in German and tells her that I and Django have come to save you. When Django appears in front of Broomhilda, she faints with happiness. Now everyone has dinner, during which Stephen sees that Broomhilda is smiling at Django and Django is also looking at her again and again. So he takes Broomhilda inside and asks her if she knows Django before, to which Django denies. Here King makes a deal with Calvin that he wants to take the German girl along with his fighter. but then Stephen comes there and asks Calvin to talk to him alone. When Calvin goes to Stephen, Stephen tells him that these people have not come for any fighter but for that German girl, and I think that girl is Django's wife. Hearing this, Calvin decides that he will not sell his fighter to King, but he will take $12,000 from King in exchange for the girl. Now coming out, Calvin makes fun of Broomhilda and shows everyone her back, which has marks of whips. Seeing this, Django gets angry, but he could not do anything. Then Lara shouts at Calvin and stops him from insulting Broomhilda. Then Calvin asks his sister and Broomhilda to go inside, after which he tells the king that I have come to know about your reality. Then Stephen brings Broomhilda out and hands her over to Calvin. Then Calvin holds Broomhilda by the neck and threatens to kill her. Then the king makes a deal with Calvin to save Broomhilda's life and gives him $12,000. After the deal is completed, Calvin prepares the papers for Broomhilda's freedom. After the papers are ready, King Django and Broomhilda start leaving from there. Then Calvin stops the king and tells him that you have to leave after shaking hands with me, but the king refuses to shake hands with him. Then Calvin says that if you do not leave by shaking hands with me, then this deal will not be accepted. He also tells his people that if Broomhilda steps out of this house, so kill him. So now the king moves forward to shake hands with Calvin, during which he takes out his gun and instead of shaking hands, he shoots Calvin and kills him. Seeing this, Stephen is very sad and starts crying. Meanwhile, Calvin's man shoots and kills the king, while Django takes out his gun and kills Calvin's man and his lawyer, after which he starts running away with Broomhilda. Then Calvin's men attack him, so he leaves Broomhilda in the room and starts killing everyone. But then Django runs out of bullets, so he hides there. Meanwhile, Calvin's man catches Broomhilda and threatens Django that if he does not come out, he will kill Broomhilda, so Django comes out and is caught. After this, Calvin's man tortures Django, during which Stephen comes there and tells Django that Lara has sold you to the traders of Lickin, who will torture you a lot and you will beg him to die. The next day we will tie Django in chains. We see that Lee Quint was taking him to his company, then Django plans to run away and Lee Quint tries to talk to the people. Here Django tells them that I am not a slave, but I went to kill criminals in a music bounty hunt, where my companion King was killed and I was handed over to you. Listening to Django, Lee Quint asks his other slaves about Django, on which the slaves tell that Django and his companion came to Candyland on horseback and Django is not anyone's slave but a free man. Listening to this, Lickin believes Django. Then Django tells Lickin that I want to go back to Candyland so that I can kill the criminal and in return I will give you the reward I get from the government. Listening to this, Lickin becomes happy and opens his chain and gives him weapons. Then Django very cleverly kills those three merchants and goes to Candyland to save Broomhilda. Here everyone is at Calvin's funeral. While Django goes to Calvin. He goes to the body of the king lying in the house and takes Broomhilda's freedom papers from his pocket and says goodbye to the king, after which he kills Calvin's man who had set the dogs on the fighter. Now he goes to Broomhilda and saves her too. Meanwhile, Lara and her people come to the house. Then Django comes in front of them and asks all the slaves to run away from the house, after which he kills Lara and all her people. He also injures Stephen by shooting him in his feet. After taking his revenge, Django blasts the house with gunpowder which he had already placed around the house. Stephen is also killed by this. At the end of the story, Django and Broomhilda stand far away and watch the house burning and leave from there. With this, the movie ends here. Friends,